Shalom. You reached the He Prayed channel. My name is Isaac Mawath. First and foremost, I want to say call Halalim, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Harachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders. 7:13:19, where I learned this truth from and who rule well. Salutations to the Bakiyar, the elect, 144,000. That's 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel consist of you so-called blacks, Latinos, and indigenous of America. The 144,000 being the governing body within the one-third. The rest of the one-third comprises of elect men, women, and children. Shalom to those Israelites scattered, those Israelite foreigners. Due to the diaspora and also the triangular trade, so our people will come looking like different ethnicities, having various complexions. So this is not a black thing. We're not the black Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites. Shalom to those that die in this truth. It says the dead should be raised up first. Those that will be accompanying Yahweh Shah on his return, including our King, King Mashah, who is King David. And as always, it's honor and blessing, honor and privilege to continue to do this work. The water Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah for answering my prayers and permitting me to do such. Baba Kashah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah allowed us to be an edifying lesson to at least one member of the elect. So while I was going to the gym, there were some thoughts that came into my mind as I was thinking about Anthony Joshua and how he got into a deadly car accident due to a tire blowout, and, a demonic thought crossed my mind. It's like, damn, what if my tire blows out and I crash and go into a wall, and, die or whatever, which at the end of the day wouldn't mean too much to me, despite the fact that I wouldn't be able to do the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah on earth. But a righteous thought came into my mind, and I was like saying to myself and rebuking myself, why doubt if you prayed? Because every time I leave the house, every time I get in the car, throughout my day, I'm praying, and I believe, which comes from the evidence in which Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah shows me, is that my prayers are answered. So why doubt if I prayed? So this is the lesson. Let me go to James. This is James chapter 1, and I'm going to start at verse 5. I'm going to kind of stick to AI due to the time. But this is St. James chapter 1, verse 5. It says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of the Most High. Right. That's something that I always make a point to ask. I don't ask for much. Mainly my prayers are, toward the elect, toward my enemies, toward, and I'm not talking about putting curses on. I mean blessings. These are blessings. I pray that, the Most High blesses the elect. He blesses my enemies. He blesses, me and my household, but, I don't pray for women. I don't pray for, bullshit. I pray for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and a clear heart, a clean heart, to walk in righteousness, to have the same mind as Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, to be at one and fully submitted, man, to his will, whatever will it may be, whether it be good or evil, but I pray that it be righteous, good. It says that giveth to all men liberally. So let's look up the word liberally. Make sure they ain't got it for us already. Okay, let's go look liberally. This is from Etna Online. Liberally, adjective 14th century, generously, munificently. Look up munificently, or also meaning freely, right? Munificent, very liberal in giving or bestowing. 1580s back formation from munificence, or else from Latin munificent, stem of munificus, bountiful, liberal, generous, right? So Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua is not stingy to give you good things that you pray for, right? And the reason why I even go to the gym is to, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, get my body to such a degree that I'm able to do his will, even, go even, be even more diligent, uh, what does it say? A dog is better than a dead lion, going back to St. James, it says, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. And I've been praying for, increase in wisdom too, because I want to do some more chapter breakdowns. Right now I'm getting a certain breakdown in Daniel 11, which I know it, through these years being in this truth. I just wanted to, go into it. I want to go into history. I want to study even more. And with that desire, I pray to Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua for that spirit, not to be selfish or boast within myself, but to be generous for or to the congregation, and that's a form of showing charity. These breakdowns, going into these scriptures, going into prophecy, going into videos like this, faith boosters, right? It says, but let him ask in faith. So you have to ask for things that you need, not things that you want, but things that you need. You have to ask them in faith, man. Nothing wavering. Don't be wavering, right? For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. The Most High ain't going to give you shit. Let's go into the interlinear and look up the word wavering. Make sure it doesn't have it in the, okay, it does have it in there. Okay, I'll just read it 2 times.
Strong's G 1252. Diakrino.
Diakrino. diagrina, wavering meaning to doubt, right? To separate, make a distinction, discriminate, to prefer, to be at variance with oneself, hesitate, doubt. Also, you have the word hesitate or to stagger. You know, what are you staggering in? Your confidence. You know, this is another thing that I notice about Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. He wants us to restore his confidence in him. You know, now that we're turning back onto him, right? Which you see certain individuals, which, you know, sometimes I hate talking about others. And I even, if you watch the videos, you hear me pray about it for the Most High to put the spirit on me to refrain, you know, but um, you see a lot of doubt because people don't pray. You know, they're not built on that solid rock, that solid foundation to the point where, you know, you don't give a shit about dying for Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. You're in the spirit of Eleazar. Point me to the guillotine. I refuse to eat swine's flesh. Right? Verse 7, it says, For let not that man think that he shall receive anything from Yahushua. So if you're wavering in faith, you ain't receiving shit. You know? But wait until your faith is tested. You know, there's something that Apostle Tahar said a decade ago, well over a decade ago. He said, if the Most High is dealing with you, do the work on your own. If you think so, if you think Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is dealing with you, then go out there and see if you could do the work on your own, man. You know, and fast forward 13 years later, you know, regardless of what others may think, you know, it's Yahweh Bashim Yahushua that's going to give mercy. You know, so you have to put your trust in him. And, you know, I give credits and glory unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushua for keeping me and upholding me and allowing me to maintain in his truth and his knowledge and his wisdom and understanding, you know, and to forgive me for, you know, my sins and forgive me for, you know, any wickedness that may have came out of my mouth, man. You know, verse 8, it says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So if I was double-minded, I would have went back into the world, man. I wouldn't have believed in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua nor his mercy, you know, which my faith comes from experience. My faith comes from a relationship with Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. You have to establish a relationship with Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, man. And, you know, you being discouraged from doing the will of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is just a test. You know, don't let anyone keep you from your love in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, man. Not even death. And it just so happens that, you know, he named me Azmawath, which means strong till death or strong unto death. meaning strong in Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. And plus, the elder apostle Gabar went into that word Michael and how powerful that name is. And, that's my middle name. My first name means willow estate. And the willows grow by running waters. And I believe that's where Yahweh Shah started his ministry, But so going back to AI, keyword in etymology, the word ask in verse 5, Greek, aeteo, means to ask as a inferior from a superior, which goes back to begging. There's nothing wrong with begging Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua for things that you need, man. And the reason why I don't say things that you want is because, I believe in, be careful what you wish for. It says request with dependence, not demand. The word faith, verse 6, Greek, pistis, conviction, trust, reliance. Let me see. That sounds familiar. Hold on. I'm veering off, my bad. Tripping. That's my ADHD. Anyway, the word faith in verse 6, Greek, pistis, conviction, trust, reliance. You have to have conviction that he's going to deliver. You have to have trust that he's going to protect you. And he has to be who you rely on, man. It says not positive thinking, but resting on the character and word of the Most High, right? The word wavering, verse 6, which is in the Greek, and we just read it in the blue letter, diakrino, says to separate, to judge between, to hesitate, to be divided in yourself. Picture a mind ping-ponging between he will and he won't. Hey, that's a good example, man. You got to be fully persuaded that he will, man. And if you don't, maybe it's just not that time yet. Because, in my case, surely it's going to happen. Sometimes things don't happen, right away. Most of the time it happens at the very last second. Get you on your, at the edge of your seat, how he likes to do you. It says double-minded, verse 8, Greek, dipsukos, literally two-souled, split loyalty, split focus, split trust. Why is that? Because you got one mind in the truth, half your mind in the truth, and half of your mind in the world. You got one face looking forward and one face looking back like Janice. Which is a demon. AI commentary, if you pray, the next test is how you stand. James doesn't just say pray, he says ask in faith. Prayer without faith is a form without power. You have to have faith in your prayers, man. Doubt is not a small emotion, it's grounds for disqualification. And I'm reading like this for a reason. I'm not slow. I'm just reading it for a reason to emphasize. It says, let not that man think that he shall receive anything. So if you praying amiss, you ain't receiving shit. It says once you pray, staying in diakrino mode, constant inner back and forth, is like canceling your own requests because you don't think Yahweh Shem Yahshai is powerful enough to do it or perform it, man. And I ain't gonna say nothing like that. Double-minded equals unstable life. The instability isn't just in prayer, it leaks into all his ways. Privately doubting what you publicly prayed sets a pattern of instability everywhere, and you want to be stable in these times, man. So one thing you have to ask for is for, the Heavenly Father to increase your faith, your confidence in him. And how are you going to get that? How are you going to receive that confidence? By going through trials, man, going through tests, gaining experience, you know, going through the mud, going through what they call hell and back. This is St. Mark chapter 11, verse 22. And Yahushua answering saith unto them, have faith in the Most High. Have confidence. He controls all things. For verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea. But this is a metaphoric, right? And shall not doubt in his heart, in his mind, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith, And through my faith, I do believe that with enough faith, you will be able to physically remove a mountain, man. Why put limitations on Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man? Now, of course, in scriptures, mountains also refer to governments. But, as a God, you don't think Yahweh Shai could move a mountain? You don't think Yahweh Shai could single-handedly just bring the earth to naught? That's the type of faith we got to have, man, in him. Right? And if you don't got that, then, not everybody's given the same level of faith. Verse 24 says, therefore I say unto you, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Right, man? And through testimony, I could agree with that, co-sign that, because you start to tally and you come to the realization that your prayers are always answered. They might not be answered as soon as you want. It might not even be the answer that you want, but they do get answered. And that's just from experience. So going into these key words, Um, it says faith, verse 22, pistis, again, settled reliance on the Most High. Doubt, verse 23, diakrino, same word idea, to separate, to hesitate, to internally argue against what you just confessed. Belief, pistieo, to entrust yourself to put confidence in, its faith in action. Desire, verse 24, the elo, to will, to wish, to resolve. More than a random want, it's a settled intent, right? And going to AI commentary, sequence is clear. Speak, don't doubt, believe it's coming to pass. You shall have it. Verse 24 locks it. Pray, believe you receive, then ye shall have. Why doubt if you prayed? Which is the title of this lesson. According to this precept, once you pray, you're supposed to shift to I have received in the spirit, not maybe I will. Doubt after prayer is you reversing your own faith stance. And I wholeheartedly believe if I prayed to be back in GMS, Yahweh Shemyah Shah will make it happen. It's just that, he hasn't put the spirit on me to pray for it yet, man. That's all I could really say, But maybe, maybe he will. But my whole thing is just to, have this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, man. It says the battleground is in his heart, which is your mind. You might still feel fear, but if your inner conclusion is he heard me and it's done, it's in his time, right? He heard me and it's done in his time. Because like I said, certain things don't happen right away. Certain things might not happen at all. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, your prayer went unanswered. It just means that it's not convenient for you at that time. It says that's belief. Doubt is when your inner verdict keeps slipping back to probably not. 1 John 5:14. This is why I like hitting the AI because, these are scriptures that I really don't be hitting, if I'm putting a lesson together or, just going and flowing in the spirit. This is 1 John chapter 5, verse 14. And this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, it has to be according to his will, it has to be in righteousness. He heareth us, And if we know that he hear us, whatsoever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we desired of him. Yeah, because everything that I've done, whether, go and apologize to people or out of my heart, do special things behind the scenes, man, that all came through prayer, man. Even, the exact date that I did those things was a deadline. The deadline date. If it doesn't happen, then I'll just, I'll just go back into the world, man. But every single time at the last minute, Yahweh Shem Shah delivered. So why not think that he would change when he's a man that he says that he shall not change. I just got to make sure that I don't change, and I got to pray for that. Don't be afraid to pray for things. Going to etymology, confidence, Greek, parousia, boldness, freedom of speech, open, fearless confidence. You got to have fearless confidence, man. Will, which, Aleister Crowley stole, the Lima. It says, what the Most High has determined his intention and pleasure, So you got to ask things that are righteous, man, not wicked things. Going to AI commentary. And, even with me having a problem with drinking, man, I always prayed that the Most High would take it away. Even before I was in the truth, I would pray. But he did it on his time. Now, if I didn't go through the things that I went through because of that demon, I would have never been as, strong as I am today in faith. And, showing Yahweh Shem outside, up close and personal, that is going to take a lot more, for me to turn my back on him, and you have to have the same character, but it says in AI commentary, doubt usually lives where according to his will is fuzzy. When you're praying something clearly in his will, repentance, wisdom, mercy, endurance, righteousness, daily bread, etc., you're authorized to walk in parousia, bold confidence. And that's the reason why a lot of you are getting weak, because you don't have confidence in your Yahweh Shem Yahshua, man. Hey, I know it's bad, and, trust me, I've been praying and, doing everything I can, but at the end of the day, I'm still good, man. But I haven't had like a real stable employment for like going on since the pandemic. But yeah, Yahweh Shem Yahshua has still provided for me, and I didn't have to do nothing that was wicked. The Most High is taking care of me. I eat every day if I want. I'm on carnivore diet right now. I've been on it since September 28th. So I mainly eat like, steaks. Sometimes, I'll cook some meatloaf or eggs or whatever. But I never missed a meal, man. And that is just, expecting your daily bread. Now, if you don't have confidence that Yahweh Shem Yahshua is going to give you your daily bread, then of course you're going to be like individuals that want to forsake the truth to get a job. Just like this individual that was in the Fresno camp. He saw the things that Yahweh Shem Yahshua was doing for me. Yeah, he gave me a desirable woman. He gave me a decent car. And I think that kind of, messed his faith up a little bit, because now he wanted to forsake the truth to get an electrician job to try to be on that level. But little did he know that came from, being tested and going through pain and going through trials, going through tribulations, being told that, whether it was true or whether it was untrue, all the things and all the scriptures used and all the personal attacks to get you to falter to get you to go back into the world, man. But I pray for, Yahweh Shem Shai to give me the strength to endure. And sometimes you got to pray for the strength to endure in your hardships and your tribulations. It says, notice the logic. If it's his will, he hears. If he hears, you have the petitions. The moment you know he heard, doubt becomes irrational. It's like doubting if a mailed package exists after you've got the tracking number. It says faith as requirement. This is Hebrews 11 verse 6. It says, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. Right, man. And especially going out there on the highways and hedges by yourself, you have to have faith that Yahweh Shem Shai is going to give his angels charge over you to protect you against these demons, man. And I have to admit, ain't now nigga tried me yet. Because I pray. I pray before, going to camp, doing the work. Of course they threaten you. Of course they pull out weapons on you. Of course, the police come. But still, Yahweh Shem Shai has delivered me from all those things because I prayed. It says, for he that cometh to the Most High must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So going to AI, it says, coming to the Most High in prayer demands two beliefs. He exists and is who he says he is. 2, he rewards those who truly seek him. Doubt after prayer is often an attack on number 2. You may not doubt that he exists, but you subtly doubt that he's a rewarder to you. That's where you fight. From broader teaching on faith and prayer, faith is presented as the essential condition for effective prayer, not a option add-on. Going to the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, and I'm going to switch to the KJV standard. I believe it's chapter 2. And switch to the KJV, chapter 2, verse 6. This is Sirach chapter 2, verse 1. It says, my son, if thou come to serve Yahweh Shai, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy mind aright and constantly endure. So this is a constant endurance. And make not haste in time of trouble. Don't go back into the world, man. When things ain't going your way. Don't give up. Yahweh Shai never gave up on us. It says, cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Right? So he's going to increase his elect. Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate. And there's a glory being in a low estate, man. Because you can use that experience as a guide for, and a template for future more difficult experiences, man. And also you'll be able to, convey victory, to others, man. Which what I mean by that, the things that you go through and persevered in is things that you can uh, use to exhort others that may be going through the same thing, saying, hey, man, look, it could be done. You can get through this. I got through it. It says, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate, for gold is tried in the fire. To be tried means to be tested, an acceptable man in the furnace of adversity. You have to go through adversity in life in general anyway. You know, why not go through adversity for something that actually means something that's going to last forever? It says, believe in him and he will help thee. Order thy way aright and trust in him. So you got to trust in, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, no matter what, especially in these times. Going to AI commentary, it says prayer doesn't erase adversity, it orders your stance in it. After you pray, Sirach tells you what to do next. Constantly endure, cleave unto him, be patient, believe in him, trust in him. Believe in him and he will help thee. If you've prayed and then immediately fall into doubt, you're exiting the posture verse 6 commands. So you can't have doubt, man. And, that's where experience comes in. You have to have, experience of, having that relationship with him, building, that confidence, strengthening that confidence. Jumping down to verse 10, it says, look at the generations of old and see, did ever any trust in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai and was confounded? Did any abide in his fear and was forsaken? Or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is full of compassion and mercy. And he's a judge, right? He's the blueprint on how to be. So we have to have these same attributes: compassion, mercy, long suffering, pitiful, forgiving. It says, for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is full of compassion and mercy, long suffering, and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins, and saveth in time of affliction. And you got to believe that he's going to save you in time of affliction. It says, woe or destroyed or destruction to be to fearful minds or hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways, double-minded. Destruction unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. So if you're faint-hearted, that means you don't believe. You're not going to be defended. You want your faith to be at a level where you actually believe there's death angels all around you protecting you, man. You have to, you'll have the faith that, you actually wholeheartedly believe if you, send demons on an individual, then that individual's done. Of course, unless Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai has mercy and, they repent. So going the keyword, go it two ways equals double path equals double mind. AI commentary verse 10 is your case study against doubt. Look back through the records. Who trusted and got confounded? Who called and got despised? Scripture's record is that those who truly trusted were ultimately helped. Fearful hearts that go two ways equals James, double-minded man. You pray one way, but live like you never heard second way. Sirach pronounces woe on that split. He believeth not, therefore shall he not be defended. Doubt isn't just a feeling, it affects your protection. Prayer plus unbelief is like dialing 911, then hanging up and locking the line. Which is, hey, that's why I like using AI, man. It be cooking, man. It be cooking, man. Let it cook. But that shit get on my nerves, man. The shit that niggas say nowadays, it's fucking, gets on my nerves a little bit. Especially when people are, oh, I'm dead, and the math, and all that bullshit. But this is St. Matthew chapter 21, verse 21. It says, Yahushua answered and said unto them, Verily I say unto you, if ye have faith and doubt not, ye shall not only do this which is done to the fig tree, but also if ye shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, it shall be done. Yahushua said it. Now, like I said, in certain scriptures, mountains and hills represent governments, but when you have this level of faith, anything is possible, is what he's trying to say. It says, and all things, whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive. So you have to believe. AI commentary pattern repeats, so it's a pattern of truth. Ask in prayer, believing, receive. The condition is not ask perfectly, but ask believing. Doubt is what breaks the chain, right? This is going back to St. James 5. I'm just going to read verse 16. It says, confess your faults one to another and pray one to another that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. It says, from broader teaching, the righteous person's prayer is powerful and effective precisely because it's rooted in faith and alignment with the Most High's will. AI commentary, effectual fervent equals active, energized, working prayer. Doubt is like cutting the power line on that prayer. And if you were to translate my first name in the Hebrew, it would translate to one of Judah's sons. me see if I can get his name. Let me see if I have anything else. Hold on. Let me see. Nephew, maybe? That don't make no sense. Hold on, let me finish this out real quick. It will be either Shelba or Sheila, which I think it says something about it right here. Which it was Shua's daughter, petition, or let me see. Some lexicon stretch it to ask of y'all or request it of y'all, which while people loosely associate it with prayer. Yeah, I think it's this one right here, too, because he was the descendant of Judah. No, it was Sheila, Judah's son. It says petition, which, let me see. Petition is close to prayer, but it's not identical. Asking part of prayer. But anyway, So it says keyword etymology overlay. I already read all those. It says prayer is the verbal act, faith is the internal alignment, trust is the ongoing posture. If you pray but your internal conclusion doesn't match what you asked and what he promised, that's where doubt creeps in. This tells you so. Once again, the title of this video is Why Doubt If You Prayed. So with that, I hope at least one brother of the elect was edified. And I'm going to say shalom.